My name is Dean Allen. I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa in 1979. Immigrated to the United States about 20 years ago. Zontos is a hydrogen water company. We're considered the hydrogen water company. And really what we are is a company that exists to help people in the Western world with a myriad of health needs or health benefits. Everything related to sports and athletic performance, to beauty, to most importantly people's health, whether prophylactic or whether they have a health problem that can then be helped past or post them having that issue. I had a very come to Jesus type moment in my life when I was committed to be executed the very next day, and had surrendered everything to God completely in my heart, relating to missions work, to the very work I was on, that I was very proud of myself about being on, until knowing I was going to be dying the next day, and really felt God and myself searching my heart all the way through the night. And it was at that time the Lord spoke to me so clearly, and He said to me, Dean, I'm calling you as a missionary, not into Africa, but into the Western world, into corporate America actually, not as Robin Hood. There's no win-lose in my kingdom, but to be a blessing to the first world. And I remember distinctly hearing that from Him, knowing His voice, which you can't deny when you hear it, and having a big issue with that, because I thought immediately, wow, I'm laying here, execution aside, the same as the other people I was with, laying in the same heat and the same malaria and screams of people and just death and agony, thinking I'm going to help people with flat screen TVs and air conditioning, and which I wish there was more of right now, but going to help those type of people made no sense. I actually felt like I was more compassionate than God Himself at that time, and again realized the folly of that, but had a huge issue with what He was calling me to do. And nonetheless, He said, Dean, that's what I'm doing. I'm calling you into the Western world to be a blessing to the West, and they will in turn bless Africa and remove the lack of access to clean drinking water problem that you so badly want to remove for these people. And those people in that region suffer on a scale that we can't comprehend in this world. I didn't, to be honest, put two and two together at all at that point about what God had told me the night before. Under that duress and stress, I was grateful, not surprised God had shown up, but it was all something that actually took me months, if not years, to be able to put together, afterwards, and actually face the reality that this was real and this happened. But I was moved by compassion for those people that were suffering, and I didn't realize how much I was moved by that compassion, because I myself was suffering. I was suffering to a ridiculous degree. Every one of the gentlemen that were with me on the trip were far older than me, and yet were able to function far better than I was. And I never understood that at the time at all. It was shortly after that, when I arrived back in the country, I recognized why I had been seeking so much and studying so much medicine myself while stuck in bed the majority of the time, because what it turned out was the reality is I had the worst case of lead poisoning that had been discovered in the Western world in a living specimen. And all the allopathic doctors I'd been to in the Western world basically said, Dean, look at you versus my other patients out in the waiting room. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a hypochondriac. And because of that, I was already flat on my back. I mean, I was flat on my back for probably around 8 years. 3 of which I was incontinent. I couldn't even make it to the restroom myself. So I had plenty of time to get into the Word of God. I had plenty of time to study medicine, and I did a great deal of that studying microbiology, pharmacology, you name it, to try and find out what was wrong with myself, because I knew there was something very wrong. It was not me being a hypochondriac. It was soon after getting back from that mission trip, one of my friends came from the Baylor water ski team. It's a small university in Waco, Texas. That's where I graduated from. And he came to find out what was wrong with me, because he knew there was something really wrong. He flew down himself and actually took some of my hair to his father, who was one of the leaders in the heavy metal poisoning industry in the United States, and found out that I had that terrible, terrible case of lead poisoning, which they subsequently removed through 33 IV push chelation therapies, which was extremely taxing on my body. And beforehand, I was weak, extremely weak, and felt terrible, but I had not experienced intractable pain. It was after getting all the lead out of my body through those 33 IV push EDTA chelation therapies, I then started experiencing pain like I had never known could be possible. And it was that pain that was actually 1,000,000 times worse than the disease itself, and or the lead poisoning. And to be honest, I wanted to be healed from that pain by being in a church service, or by the same ways I had seen growing up, people being healed. I was exposed to that from a young child, God moving in amazing ways, healing people, and I expected to be healed because I prayed and I believed and I trusted and I confessed and I fasted, or I was in a service, or one of those things. I never expected to be healed because somebody sent me a plastic machine and I drank the water coming out of it. But I heard the voice of God tell me when they sent me that machine, which was not one of our alkaline water machines, it was a hydrogen water machine. And they sent me one of those machines and said, "Dean, please seriously pay attention to this and try it." And I ignored that, but I didn't ignore the voice I heard tell me, "Dean, seriously drink that." And God told me very clearly to go on a 14-day water fast and just drink that water and stop all pharmaceuticals I was on as well. And I did so, and it sucked. It really hurt. On day 13, I thought my sister, who is a physician, she oversees a department in Texas Children's here in the Woodlands, Texas, of pediatric behavioral and developmental pediatrics, but I thought she was probably lacing my water with morphine, which is one of the drugs I was on, of a whole cocktail of about 12 or 13 psychotropic drugs I was on. And turns out she wasn't. And I heard the voice of the Lord say, "Son, you're feeling what it feels like to live again." And that was thanks to that water. So I had an incredible experience with the water, which caught my attention. It was soon after that my CEO contacted me because the head of the Molecular Hydrogen Institute at the time contacted him to talk to him about the fact that alkaline water really was a farce. The truth was hydrogen water, and little did he know we already had a hydrogen water machine, even though my CEO at the time didn't know. I had one, and I had been using that, and it was what was helping me so much. And so was born Zontos, which I never named. I am extremely left-brained, so to speak. I don't come up with ideas and things. But a gentleman from Conroe House of Prayer in Conroe, Texas, came up with that name. And Zontos literally means, in the Aramaic, in the scriptures where Jesus met the woman at the well, and he said, "If you drink of this water, you'll thirst again. But if you drink of this water," the second "this water" means Zontos Equitos, which means living water. And that's where the name of our company comes from. The difference is absolutely huge. Alkaline water runs on a few misnomers. Two of them is the pH. Basically, it runs off the idea from a gentleman who won a Nobel Peace Prize for finding out that a person cannot have cancer unless their body pH is acidic. And that's not exactly the truth. but as you know, most lies are best told and best received when they're 90% true. The absolute truth is the person won the Nobel Peace Prize for finding out that a person cannot have cancer unless their body has ketoacidosis, meaning that their blood alkalinity is not alkaline, it's actually acidic. And the way a person's blood becomes more alkaline is not through ingesting something with a higher pH, akin to you eating your toothpaste every morning or eating baking soda. You won't actually get any health benefits from that. Every scientist knows that, every molecular biologist, every doctor knows full well that you'll get no health benefits from doing that. It goes into a stomach with a pH that is extremely highly acidic and would completely nullify any of that changing anything in your blood. However, you could eat grapefruit all day long, which is highly acidic, and ketoacidosis would very quickly turn into the opposite, even though it's acidic, because it gets rid of the cytotoxic free radicals in your body. The second thing the alkaline water industry touts is something called ORP, which stands for oxidation reduction potential. Our principal scientist, Dr. Gary Gruen, it was his father that actually coined the acronym ORP. A long time back, over 50 years ago, and that's why we believed in it a lot at the time as well, until the Chinese government actually came out with the study, because they could tell that more people were being helped with alkaline water than the placebo effect could account for. And the variation from the placebo effect to the actual amount of people helped, they knew had to be based on some solid science. It couldn't just be pseudoscience, or it couldn't just be anecdotal evidence. There was something going on, and they did the studies, which cost a few $100 million as far as I recall, and found out that there was a third component to alkaline water, and that was hydrogen, the amount of hydrogen dissolved in the water. And that's what our products do now, is they only focus on hydrogen. The ORP is absolutely irrelevant, not measured, and the pH is neutral. Same pH in is the same pH out. It's not even anything we focus on, because we know the only thing that actually benefits the human body is the hydrogen content.